Hey, good morning, folks. I'm your host, BKP. It's good to be back in LJ, Georgia this morning. 68 degrees there, 8 a.m. And it's good to be home. You know, you like to get away and take a trip from time to time, but it's always good to be home, good to be back in the studio. Thank you. I don't want to say get this out of the way. How does that sound? But I want to thank Rick and Jane for Wednesday. I want to thank Josh for... people were telling me, Josh, we got some things to go over about the way we did the location show Thursday, as far as some things I'd like to do a little different next time, because that's the first time. But I actually got text messages that said that was seamless. So great job in the studio here in LJ producing Thursday's show. And I'll give a shout out and thank all of our guests Friday, and give a big shout out to Lauren Hunter and Josh for handling Friday's show. So good to be back this morning. Much needed break, not just for me, much needed break for my wife. So I'm glad she was able to get away for a couple days. Maybe she would have liked to got away from me. Oh, wow, I said that out loud. No, just joking. But much needed break. Thank you very much. But it's good to be back. Watching the social media and the weather. I hope everybody's okay this morning. A lot of damage here in North Georgia through the storms. Power. I hope everybody's okay. Let's get this rolling. Now, the question of the day. All right. And I will tell you this, okay? I have pondered this question. I've read articles. Okay, I read articles, and we're going to get, first of all, this is how you get in touch with us, okay? You know, I don't want to joke around, all right? I know what you might think, way too serious for a Monday morning, but I want to talk about President Donald J. Trump. I want to talk about his move on the, put that back up for a minute, Josh, because I want you folks at home to realize you can email me, you could text us, and all the social media ways, because I want to hear what you think, all right? So you can take that down. Now, I want to hear what you think. I put it on social media this morning. Put up number 33. I want to know, this is 4 a.m. right out of the box with CNN. I was up there at 4 a.m. There you go. First thing coming up. Trump's Iran strategy. So I don't want to be silly and joke around, because a lot of days that's the only way you can talk about Democrats, is just try to joke around, because they are a joke. But that being said, I spent a lot of time thinking about Trump's strategy, okay? Now, we have a situation where boats or tankers that are not flying the American flag. Okay, Ronald Reagan, when tankers were attacked or cargo ships were attacked, he flew the American flag, which, you know, says, hey, you better not touch this ship. Anyhow, moving right along. So we had tankers, and a Japanese business owner, big tanker. We had a couple tankers that our intelligence, Mike Pompeo, State Department, and the mustache, John Bolton, we're hearing back that those attacks on the tankers came from Iran. The Revolutionary Guard, is that what they are? Now, Trump has named the Revolutionary Guard a terrorist organization. That's the military arm of Iran, right? Is that who they are? But he's labeled them a terrorist organization. Then we have an unmanned drone, okay? Now, if you do the research, we're not going to take a lot of time on this because you guys are great at your own research. If you do the research and look, I think this is $180 million, okay? And these drones gather information for us, and they coordinates and all kinds of stuff, strike points where we could strike. And so we have an unmanned drone that's up there. And if you look over Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, I mean, just look around the world and Google how many of our drones have been shot down. I don't know. That's not where we're going. So we have an unmanned drone shot down. Okay? And Iran is really just escalating and wanting us to get into a fight. Okay? Now, Trump said that he asked for a casualty count. Now, one of the things the media cannot take is whether you agree with Trump's strategy or you don't agree with it. Because many are getting up this morning saying, Trump's Iran strategy. Now, I will tell you this. This is a two-bird with one stone situation, because we'll get there in a minute, but don't forget, the Democrat, okay, the Democrat debates start this week, two-night event. And Trump made a strategic move with Iran. But he's also given Democrats 3 full days to say stupid stuff. I'm sorry, it's the only way, just to say something stupid concerning Iran. Okay? And he is setting, remember, everything that Trump has done. ICE raids, okay, we'll get into that. The ICE raids that did not take place. The Iran strategy, okay, everything Trump has done is setting them up for Wednesday night. He's extracting, I'll get into that in a minute. Let's go back to Trump's strategy. So, Trump doesn't have an appeasement strategy like Obama and Kerry. First of all, if we went down the road of John Kerry, actually, and Valerie Jarrett, don't forget, Valerie Jarrett is Iranian. She's Iranian. Valerie Jarrett's Iranian. Don't forget, Valerie Jarrett was with Barack Obama in Chicago, came to Washington, D.C. with Barack Obama. She is one of the few. Every time they give you, this big speech about Trump and the turnover in his White House, yeah, he's got a lot of turnover. We'll go there. But no matter what president in the United States you have, as far as chief of staff, top strategery, as George W. would say, whatever, okay? Foreign policy, it doesn't matter. Very few people go 8 years. Very few go 8 years. So keep in mind when you're doing your research, Valerie Jarrett, okay? Come from Chicago with Obama, Iranian born. I know you say it, I'm just being coincidental. Stayed all 8 years with Obama, all the way through the Iranian deal with John Kerry and Obama that they signed, this bad deal. And when he left the White House, she is the shadow government for the Obamas. Just saying there. So, staying with the Iranian strategy. Okay. Let me make a comment on the 150 casualties, okay? First of all, America does not have the appetite for war. Now, we're not going to accept being pushed around. We're not going to accept when we see during the Obama administration, okay, Iranians and our soldiers on their knees like this at gunpoint, on one of those little boats, we're not going to be okay with that. Trump's not going to be okay with that. But I, for one, want to know what we got for our $6 trillion that we spent. Now, what's interesting is people started putting a value on life. Hell, you say. Now, I said this the other day. Don't forget, you could do your own research. Iran is responsible, before this man became president, way before Donald Trump ever became president, okay? Iran was responsible, George W. Bush, which, no, I do not miss George W. Bush, okay? George W. Bush, all right, replenished the missile supply for these military contractors, and a lot of our kids were killed. You go on social media, you talk about veterans, taking care of our veterans. You know what? It breaks my heart every time I go in there and see these kids. And I call them kids that are in their 30s, that are missing legs, missing arms. A $6 trillion war. What did we get? What did we get in a $6 trillion war? Go to number 4, and then I want to go back to this one. I'll be ready to go back to this one. Check those missiles outside. That's one. I don't want to cast all the shadow on Raytheon, but that's one. You realize when we stockpile missiles, they have to build them. Like I said, I don't want to just take them, but look at those missiles. Back to number 1. So $6 trillion we spent. I don't know what we got for it exactly in Afghanistan and Iraq. I don't know. Maybe you do. All right? We have a lot of kids that got killed over there. Okay? I mean, Iran is responsible for, I think, as high as 27% of the casualties in Iraq. They're the ones that were in Iraq killing our kids, Iran. Okay? So Trump becomes, now, Obama is president. We appease Iran. Every time they got mad, we gave them money. See, do your own research of how much money the Obama administration gave Iran. It didn't matter how much they were chanting death in the streets, death to America. It did not matter how many times the Ayatollah was yelling that, they want to wipe Israel off the face. It didn't matter. The Obama administration, their dealing with Iran was to appease them, to give their money back. Do your own research. I keep saying that. Do your research. We froze their assets. You judge this man on the screen. We froze their assets when they took, was it 50 Americans hostage? I forget how many were hostage. 50 Americans hostage? We froze their assets. Guess what? When we unfroze them, we gave them interest and everything. We gave them all their money. Obama appeased these people. Obama wrote a phony. If you believe that they're enriching uranium and they're coming out of their deal they made, a terrible deal they made with America and the rest of the world, the nuclear deal, you're badly mistaken. Now, let me say this, okay? When President Trump, remember, when he became President of the United States or when he was in the transition, they couldn't spend enough time on the deep state media in fear of him having the nuclear codes, in fear of what he would do if we are provoked. You can go back for 2 years and you could go over and over all kinds of video of the deep state media. What would he do if provoked? We're in fear. Well, we got to get him out of the White House. If just provoked, what would he do? Right? Rocket Man, I'll wipe you off the face of the earth. He hasn't done anything to him. Right? But what if he was provoked? What would he do? Would he have the demeanor? Would he have, could he pause? Could he reflect? Could he listen? How many, if you go back in the last 2 years, how many stories for the deep state media of who has Trump's ear? Why, how many stories from the deep state media of we can't trust him at these times not to just... Will he listen to the top generals? Will he take advice? The media has wanted you to live in fear of this man and him having nuclear... We went through his cognitive functions. We have gone through early stage. They have diagnosed him on these networks of early stage of dementia. All the above. Now, before I get to my first break, Trump's Iran strategy. Let me say this, okay? He asked for a casualty count. Pretty damn responsible. Why, anybody would have done that. No, if you would listen to the way they want to make the American people think that this guy is just the biggest idiot in the world, he's dumb as hell, he asked for a casualty count. He had a war room meeting, a situation room, and he didn't have Beyonce laid out on the situation table and her boyfriend with his feet up on the table. It was serious. He had Nancy. I mean, he didn't say who's the Democrat. He had them in the situation room. They went all the way around the room. They all made a decision that retaliation of some form was in order. He listened to everybody. He listened to generals. He pulled all the strategic plans. This guy did. He allowed the military to lay all the strategic plans. And then he said, what's the body count? Casualty. Give me casualty numbers. Mr. President, around 150 civilians. And he said, not going to do it. I had an unmanned drone, $180 million drone. It's not proportional. And then there's the one yelling, but Mr. President, they did this, they did this. All right, let me say this, okay? Iran's trying to pick a fight. They're in big trouble over there. Now, when they were uprising in the streets of Iran with Obama and Joe Biden, right? When they were uprising in the streets with Obama and Joe Biden, we did not pull the Iranian people across the threshold of a rebellion to end that regime, that evil regime as it is. We did not do our part, okay? Now, Trump has put excruciating sanctions on them. They have no money. It's dried up. There's no American. Trump is not allowing Swiss banks to funnel cash illegally from America, which Obama and Biden did that. Obama and Biden had to run our cash through a bank because we couldn't directly give Iran cash. Anyhow, that being said, Trump is not allowing these cash deals to run through other banks in Iran. He has the sanctions tightened down on them that they are so upset they don't know what to do. Their people, their inflation is through the roof. Unemployment's through the roof. It's a disaster there. They are hurting, and they're trying to pick a fight for the visual in the world, for the visual for their people. We always get up in the morning and we think about, although we have the deep state media, we have all these pieces of garbage media that broadcast all over the TV and show us things. They don't. Their people are restricted in what they see. So you might think, well, they shot down a drone. We should retaliate. How will the 150 people remember Hillary Clinton and Susan Rice went on the morning shows and tried to sell you, the American people, the lie that a video that was made agitated, a anti-Islamic or Muslim video, is what agitated these people in Benghazi to kill Ambassador Stevens, and an uprising in Egypt was this video. Now, if it was Obama, anything, his administration, that they felt agitated the region, they wouldn't do it. But this guy stops on 150 casualty count, knowing what it's going to be spun into. The Iranian government's going to spin it into, all right? You remember in Iraq, we supposedly blew up milk factories and the children? He knew what it was going to get spun into. He knew he was going to kill 150 innocent people. It was going to get spun in Iraq that we attacked them. And I'm going to explain in more detail this strategy of pulling back. I got a lot of respect for it, because let me tell you something. Kids, listen up. You turn 18 years old, you get all excited, you're going to go over to the voting booth and you're going to get to vote for the first time in your life. You're 18 years old. And usually, not for myself, but usually you'll watch 18-year-olds vote in a much more liberal way, obviously. But then there's the day your son or daughter, now at one point it was your son, okay? It was one point it was your son, now it's your son or daughter. But now you have a child, and you look over at that child and you say, okay, that child's 16 years old. So you're looking over at your 16-year-old, and you're looking at the presidential election. And you look at the candidate and say, this candidate, as president of the United States, could send my son or daughter to war. I will tell you, you don't have to believe that. I'm a firm believer that that's about the time for some Americans your vote changes. That's about the time when you look at somebody and say, this individual could send my son or daughter to war. I'll never forget the first vote I cast for president of the United States, knowing that that president would be the one that could send my son to war. It was a little different, whether you want to believe that or not. I don't think we need to go to war with Iran. I think we just tighten those sanctions up today. I think also the underground media, the Twitter feeds, I'm going to explain when I get back why this guy tweets out all the time, especially about Iran, okay? I'm going to give you that when we get back. We're going to talk about the South Carolina fish fry, okay? We're going to talk about the South Carolina fish fry. We're going to talk about Joe Biden and the MSNBC debates this week. And those poor children sleeping on concrete floors at the border with lice. Just a crisis. We're going to talk about that. Folks, let me go back to this really quick, okay? Number 4. MSNBC and the deep state media, they're rattling the drums wanting to go to war with Iran, okay? Now, the only reason I bring up Raytheon, okay, if you go through the military contractors in this country, war is good for them. Absolutely. Hang tight, I want to pull this. American firms rule the 398 billion global arms industry. 398 billion, folks, the global arms industry. And the United States rules that. The money, okay? Now, I'm not going to get into the world, but let's look at this. When you get down to the top 10, you start looking at the top 10, you have, you get down to, you start at number 6, General Dynamics. General Dynamics. $19.5 billion in arms sales. United States. The Northrop Group. German. Sorry. All right. $22.4 billion. United States. BAE Systems, that's in the United Kingdom, 22.9. Raytheon, the one on the screen, Raytheon, 23.9 billion. They're United States. Okay? Boeing, 26.9 billion, United States. Lockheed Martin, 44.9 billion, United States. Those are out of the top 10. Okay? Those are out of the top 10 firms in the arms industry. $398 billion global arms industry. Now let me tell you one more thing before we go to break, because we need to go. You see all these, now when I say all, that's a big word, so not everyone, okay? But you see a lot of these retired colonels and retired lieutenant colonels, and you see generals, and you see all of these retired people, okay? I know, again, all is a big word, not everyone. Then quit saying all. But you see so many of these on all the networks. And the networks, if you go do the research, they should have to disclose when they bring in a general or they bring in a retired commander of a fleet, when they bring in somebody, they should have to expose that they are on the payroll of Raytheon. They are on the payroll of one of these major arms industry companies somewhere else, because it happens all the time. Happens all the time that the deep state media pulls somebody up to find out why they think, and they start bad-mouthing the President of the United States for not retaliating, and then if you look in the background, they may be on the payroll of Raytheon. Just saying. We're going to talk more about that when we get back. I'm your host, BKP. By the way, Al Sharpton, does he wear a sign in South Carolina? White people, apply your lips to my ass here. Sorry I said that, but as you can tell, I'm back, baby. Take us a break.